as entrepreneurs, we tend to be quite driven individuals. Now, what gets really interesting in there is to understand, am I leaning towards more being a workaholic or being somebody who's passionate? So this week we have with us Melissa Lee, who is actually an executive coach for high-performing entrepreneurs and leaders. And she talks and that did a lot of research on workaholism and to say, where am I on that spectrum? Where does my drive come from? And she really brings a really interesting twist in our interview on also, are you being overworked? Let's go to my interview. Melissa, thank you so much for accepting my invitation today.
Thank you so much for being on today on your channel today, Sarah. I'm so excited to have a chat with you today.
So Melissa, we're going to talk about a topic that in the entrepreneur world, the line is very thin, and we are going to explore that line. But before we go into that topic, could you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. So my name is Melissa Leich. I'm originally from Germany. Nowadays, I live in Vienna, Austria, but right now I'm calling in from Dubai. So I love traveling and experiencing different cultures. I'm the CEO of 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉, and I'm an executive coach.
Yes. And as an executive coach, we see a lot of people who are passionate. As with me, with entrepreneurs, we are passionate. So we were talking, and this is where the idea came from, of workaholism, being a workaholic, versus being somebody who is passionate. It's a very fine line, and we see it in high achieving entrepreneurs and executives that the line is a little bit blurry. What is the difference between both?
It is actually very interesting because even though this is a very usual topic I work on with leaders, it is actually a very, as you mentioned, there's a very fine line, and also from which area, which perspective you want to see different things. Mm-hmm. Now, the word even itself has been distorted in many different ways. Magazines throw it around in different ways. Doctors use it again in a different way. Mm-hmm. So it's very confusing, and to everyone, it actually means something totally different. So actually, if we really talk about workaholism, it is actually really if you act from fear and more from a negative standpoint, you are not enough, you have to do more. And if you actually, if you work long hours, or if you love working, if it's a passion, it is more about the perspective of serving to something better, to something good, to something bigger. Mm-hmm. And that is just like a huge topic. And I know also myself, sometimes I question, like, is this the right motivation why I do specific things or why I love working long hours? But it is just, if you're so caught up in this topic and if you really enjoy something, you don't look at the clock and like, oh my God, now it's 5 o'clock, now it's 7 o'clock, but the time goes like whoosh. We all know it, like when we go on vacation, right? When we enjoy ourselves, the time just flies by. And so I think that is really important to always keep in mind. But on the other side, it is also really important to figure out or to think about and reflect. Like, is there maybe something what I'm trying to avoid? Or is it really something what I just purely enjoy every day? But I think one should always reflect. Because sometimes we try to avoid maybe difficult situations at home. Maybe we have trouble with one of our kids or with our partner or something like that. And maybe we prefer to sit in the office and say we are busy with work because it's easier to lie to ourselves as well than actually saying like, oh, maybe there is a challenge and I need to deal with it and I need to face it. So I personally, even myself, I really think every day, is it like really, what is it about really?
Yes.
And I think also what you're mentioning about high performing teams and all of this, because sometimes very often friends might just say like, oh, you're such a workaholic because you don't have time maybe to go for dinner and drinks or waste your time with Netflix series or something like that. But because you're like always, you have this passion, motivation to go further. Maybe you love like, you know, growing yourself and experiencing different things. And a lot of people don't understand that because maybe they are like in a whole different zone. So I think it is so important to just stay like within your comfort zone and just question and reflect as well, like what's going on.
And I like how you put it. It's because it can come from two places, and that's really what we want to question. It can be oh, I'm not doing enough, so I will work more, I will hustle, I will just do more, push beyond what's healthy, beyond what I want. Or it can be something external from me that I want to avoid, a conflict. Even like if I'm lonely in my personal life, I will work instead of, trying to go out there and do things and explore or things like that. So where I'm taking the decision, that's what makes it the difference going from one to the other, not the number of hours that we actually work.
Yes. And I mean, we see like, all the important minds of our time, like everybody of them devotes a lot of time into their expertise in their field, because only if you devote time to this, you can become a real expert. I mean, also if we look at Oprah Winfrey or Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, I mean, these people, they work like, oh, die hard, or Maria Teresa. It's not like that they say like, ooh, I just will work 2 hours because I don't need the money or whatever. I mean, even though like all of these people, they have like a lot of money and they don't need it in order to earn more. And that is so exciting to see also, like, yes, if you love something, you just will continue on your path.
I love the examples that you put, because I think many people would put like Oprah and Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk in like the workaholic category, but I don't think many people would put Mother Teresa in this category.
Yes. I think, sorry for interrupting, but I think it also has got something to do with money, because a lot of people have a misconception about money. And I think due to the old generation and how we grew up with our parents, it was about having a career, having a good job and moving along. So I think a lot of people always see like money, something is a good thing. Others see it as a bad thing. And whereas Maria Teresa, of course, is like, it's not about money. And I know when I did this research as well, and I was looking at the biography of Oprah or Mark Zuckerberg, and I definitely do not put them into the workaholic field, because again, it is a lot for me, and also from a psychological viewpoint, you can actually see different traits. Because very often people who are real workaholics, they also have different neurological paths and different. It's an addiction. It is the same addiction like with drugs or narcotics. And that is so important to realize.
That is so true. And obviously, if I'm not willing to go and explore within me what's making me work so much, or outside of me what is actually influencing my work schedule and my addiction, then I will go and feed it with something that will actually tame my nervous system, calm my nervous system. And yes, sometimes it is work, but like addiction can also be like working out. It can also become an addiction.
Yes, totally. I mean, it is like drugs, cigarettes, sex, all of this in the end, it is some form of addiction. So yes, I mean, it's so interesting also, if you look at the correlation between workaholism and disorders, you can definitely see traits there. And I actually pulled some numbers yesterday, which is very interesting. Anxiety, workaholics lie there at 33.8%, whereas non-workaholics, 11.9%. ADHD, workaholics, 33%. Non-workaholics, 12.7%. OCD, workaholics, 25.6%. So we see there's definitely a correlation there.
There is definitely. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm not quite sure on which side of the line I'm leaning towards, passion or workaholism, what would be some of the signs and what can I do about it?
Yeah. So I think especially like if you really just work because you feel you have to, you don't actually really have the passion, you do it because in order to feel good. And you don't enjoy anything else. You might have sleeping issues. You might be always thinking about work and you won't be able to think about anything else or relax. Like we all know, it is so important to recharge our batteries. And some people need a shorter time, others need a longer time. So as I mentioned earlier, I think it is always really important to reflect and figure out what is going on actually right now, because sometimes we can change. And because the line is so close, it can sometimes even move along or move away or together. So I always feel it is a very good thing to reflect every day. Like for me, I'm a person, if I get excited about something, I don't realize time anymore. And at 11 p.m., I look at the clock and it's like, oh my God, I only had breakfast. I didn't even have time to have lunch and now it's so late. What do I do? So what you can also do is like set every 90 minutes on your phone, like a very nice sound, like an alarm clock, where you get reminded to do a quick break and really check the time. And I think it's also really important. We tend to always want to finish tasks before actually doing a break. Yes. But no matter what you do, if your phone signals it's time for a break, just say, okay, don't push it up. Just say, okay, I'm going to do the break right now, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you have time to do, whatever you have time. You just set that aside and then you sit down at the desk again.
And during that break that I can, would it be a good idea to actually just take stock of, okay, how am I feeling when this alarm came in? Am I okay with it? Am I aggravated by it? How am I feeling around?
Yes. Yes. And I think it is also so important to think now, because different cultures deal with this also in a different way. In some countries or cultures, actually being a workaholic is something positive. Like, yes, I'm a high achiever. I'm a great person. I'm a leader, so I have to be a workaholic. Yes. Whereas in other countries or cultures, it is more about like something negative. Yeah. So I think it is really important also to see and to figure out where and which circle do I belong to. And to actually really see and also to make adjustments, because we all know it is not cool. It is not a good thing to be a workaholic, because it's actually very unhealthy if you look at this long term, especially if we talk about health issues and all of this. It is not a good thing to do. And I feel like society or the pressure and information and all of this has gone overboard. So we don't even think about it anymore. We just do too many things at the same time, multitasking. No. In the end, it's actually very inefficient to multitask. And it is way better to do one thing and then continue to the next thing. So it's all about setting boundaries as well, and not getting sucked into this whole situation.
I love that. And like, yes, which culture of the hustle and the glorified workaholism, because even hustling and being busy is very glorified.
Yes.
So yes, understanding which culture perhaps you're in, but also decide which one do I want to be in.
Yes. And you see, I lived in Singapore for 9 years. And when I was in my 20s, I really enjoyed this hustle culture. And yes, let's do this, high achiever. But after 9 years, I realized it just doesn't make me happy anymore. And I really decided basically from one day to another that I do not want to be in this environment anymore, because it just didn't make me happy. And I really basically pulled the brake and said, I need to go somewhere else. I need to be somewhere else. So that's why I actually moved to Austria, because you have mountains, you have nature. And I just realized that at that point in life, I really needed it. But I told my friends at the same time in Singapore, like, I'm not saying goodbye. I just need a time. I need some time for myself right now. And whenever I'm ready, I will do this again. And I need a break right now. And I think that is okay. Yes.
And I love that, because we also don't need to change country. We can also just go out in nature.
Yes, totally. I feel like, especially now during COVID, where a lot of people experience anxiety, so much things are changing. Maybe you lost your job, and maybe you got a divorce with your spouse. Like so many things.
Economics, like so many things were up in the air in the last 2 years.
Yes. And so actually one of the best things you can always do is just go out into nature. Like forget about shopping therapy and all of this. It is actually so much better to go outside and enjoy, go for a walk. Yes.
And I think if you decide to go for a walk, just go in a park, or sit down, or come and join me at the spa,
Yes.
If you're there and you're feeling anxious and stressed, it might be a sign that it's towards being a workaholic versus being somebody who is passionate.
Yes. If you never can enjoy your time off or your time where you re-energize, that's definitely a sign that something is going on. Because you need to, if you don't have, I mean, there should be always a reason why you do all of this, right?
Yes.
Like the people we mentioned early on, very often they don't even do it for their families. That's why they are these high achievers. They do it for something bigger, like for humanity, for the universe. And yes, I think that is so important to realize. Like if you just sit in your small office and you just do these tasks just for yourself and you don't even know why you're doing it. And yeah, that's definitely a sign that something is way off.
I think, thank you for the conversation. I think it's an important one, especially again with the pandemic, made that we're always in front of our desk, because our desk is in our house, so we don't need to travel to go to the office. So that line got even more blurry in the last 2 years between, am I a workaholic or am I somebody who's passionate?
Yes.
And I like how workaholism, what I'm understanding too, is short term versus passion is, I want to contribute something that's greater than myself.
Yes, definitely. And it's like you mentioned, like a lot of my clients have exactly this problem, what you mentioned, because now basically companies also expect that you kind of work 24 hours per day, because you always have your computer available.
Yes.
And that's why I think it is so important, because very often if we talk about overworked versus workaholics, where I say the fine line is there's a very fine line as well. And that you need to also talk to your manager, like you have to be honest. And often it is also about delegating work, or having the urge to control situations. Like very often, especially leaders, they say like, "Oh, I'll be fast if I do this myself." Yes, but that's not the point. Like you should focus on important things, and you need to learn to delegate, and even if it takes longer.
And it will take longer. Like we know, delegating in the beginning, it takes longer. It's an investment. Don't see it as a cost. But I'm curious, what's the difference between, in your opinion, what's the difference between overworked and workaholic?
So overworked is, for me, if you really don't set these boundaries and you get sucked into a situation and people will load and load and load more stuff on you, and you do not communicate in a clear way, that it's not the way to go, or to really, yes, for me, it's all about communication and setting boundaries. That's it. Yes.
Okay, so as a high achiever, taking stock, am I overworked? Am I workaholic? Or am I passionate?
Yes.
Understanding where you are, where you live on a daily basis, and from there, from that awareness, then we can actually do something about it.
Yes. Even though there's just one more small point I would like to mention is about prioritizing things, works and tasks. Like very often we always like, oh, we don't have any time and we're hustling and oh my God. Where I say, well, if you say you can't do that, think about why you can't do it. Is it something you don't want to prioritize because you say like, I don't care about it or it's not important to me? Well, that's fine. Then give it to someone else. But just think about why you say you don't have time for that.
Yeah, the infamous I don't have time. I don't have time and I don't have money. They're the two biggest excuses that human beings use, right?
Yes, yes.
So I love those distinctions, and it actually puts words on behaviors that often we're not aware, we're not conscious about it. We're just going with the flow. But being able to name it, to be able to do something about it.
Yes.
We want and we need people who have the passion.
Yes.
Because that's what makes a difference.
Yes.
Melissa, thank you so much. Where can people find you online, what you do, how you help executive high achievers?
Yes. So basically, you can find me all over the place on the internet. You can find me under 𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉, the 𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉's website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Just search for 𝒂𝒕𝒄𝒉 and then you'll find me there.
Thank you. And thank you for the mission that you also have.
Well, yes, I think that is what life is about.
So
thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you like the conversation. I hope you start asking yourself the question, am I overworked? Am I leaning towards workaholism? Or am I passionate? We often start by passion, but sometimes we get stuck in workaholism or being overworked. Once we start asking those questions, once we start to seeing, whoa, am I trying to move away from something? Am I trying to, is there a place within me or in a situation that I don't want to be in? If you find yourself saying, I have to work, I have to do this, I have to respond, I have to, then that's a little bit of a sign that the passion is actually on the back burner right now. Something else is taking the spot. So once we become aware and we bring in more self-awareness, then we can actually do something about it. And it's from there that we see that so much more is possible. Thank you for being here week after week, and I will see you next Tuesday.